Welcome to the SANS Science Experience podcast, where we explore the latest and most exciting papers and preprints in science. We're really glad you could join us. Before we dive in today, please take just a second to like, subscribe, and maybe share this with your friends and family. Your support honestly helps the SANS Science Experience keep bringing you these explorations into, well, groundbreaking science. Okay, so today we're delving into a scientific paper that has truly game-changing potential. It's titled Learning the Natural History of Human Disease with Generative Transformers. Now, I know that title sounds pretty academic, right? But the concept behind it is, well, it's profoundly human. We're talking about how really advanced artificial intelligence, specifically a modified GPT architecture, is being trained to model the incredibly complex progression of human diseases. Imagine an AI that could give us a clearer, maybe faster path to understanding our individual health risks and even predict, future health journeys. We're going to unpack the details of this powerful new model they've developed called Delphi-2M.
Yeah, and it's such a critical development. Current healthcare decisions, they're sophisticated, of course, but they often struggle with predicting future health based on what we know about the past and present. But the challenge is just immense. We're talking about like the full spectrum of human disease. That's over 1,000 distinct diagnoses, and not just the diagnoses themselves, but the way they compete, interact, maybe even pave the way for each other over time. Existing methods, they usually just focus on single diseases. That approach, it just can't capture the whole picture.
Right, the single disease focus seems like a major limitation.
Exactly. And what often gets overlooked, or is just too intricate for those traditional models, is multimorbidity. Our health isn't just about fighting one condition at a time. It's the evolving interplay of multiple comorbidities. And this isn't just an abstract problem for one person. If you look at the bigger picture, our global population is aging rapidly. That means we're predicting a huge surge in chronic illnesses and cancer. Just think, global cancer diagnoses alone, projected to jump 77% by 2050.
77%, wow.
Yeah. So accurately modeling this expected disease burden isn't just about individual patient care. It's absolutely vital for our healthcare systems, for economic planning, really on a massive scale. So the big question is, how can we possibly untangle these incredibly complex, time-dependent relationships between all these different diseases?
That challenge, untangling those temporal dependencies, it does seem almost insurmountable with the old methods. So how exactly do these newer AI developments, like the large language models we hear about with chatbots, how do they offer a path forward here?
Well, it's a really brilliant conceptual leap, actually. Think about it like this. Just as LLMs learn the patterns of language, right? Treating words as tokens in a sequence to predict the next word. Delphi-2M applies that same kind of logic, but to disease progression. It treats health events like a diagnosis, a change in BMI, an age marker as tokens in a chronological sequence. And it uses that sequence to predict future health events.
Okay, so it's modeling health like a language. That makes sense. And you mentioned it's built on a modified GPT architecture.
That's right, a generative pre-trained transformer, but it's been cleverly extended to handle continuous time. And that's crucial. It means the model doesn't just understand what happens, but when it happens and the duration between events. That adds this vital layer of real-world timing to the health trajectories.
So what does this all mean practically?
It means we're looking at an AI that's actually learning the sort of grammar and the contextual logic of human health across the entire spectrum of disease, moving way beyond just focusing on one condition.
Okay, so how did they teach it this grammar? What data did it learn from?
Right, so to tackle this huge task, Delphi-2M was trained on truly massive data sets. It started with the UK Biobank, which has data from about 0.4 million participants. And then its capabilities were rigorously validated using a completely separate external data set of 1.9 million Danish individuals. And importantly, this validation was done without any retraining of the core model.
Wow, 1.9 million. So it generalizes pretty well then.
It seems to. And the model's vocabulary, if you want to call it that, is incredibly rich. It includes over 1,250 distinct states or tokens. These aren't just the standard ICD-10 diagnostic codes for diseases, but also crucial context. Things like age of diagnosis, sex, body mass index, smoking, alcohol consumption, and significantly, death.
So it's got a lot of context to work with. What can it actually do with all that?
Good question. It gives Delphi-2M two core capabilities. First, prediction. It can predict the rates of occurrence for more than 1,000 diseases, all based on individuals' unique past health history. But the second capability, its generative power, that's what really sets it apart. It can actually sample synthetic future health trajectories for up to 20 years into the future.
Synthetic trajectories, so like simulating possible health futures.
Exactly. It provides meaningful estimates of potential disease burden down the line. And, this is quite interesting, these synthetic trajectories can even be used to train other AI models, which helps address some privacy concerns because you're using simulated data, not real patient records.
That's clever. And how accurate is it compared to existing models?
That's what's really impressive. Its accuracy in predicting future disease rates is comparable to existing models that focus on just a single disease. But Delphi-2M does this for over 1,000 diseases simultaneously. For instance, predicting death, it achieves an AUC of 0.97.
0.97. That's incredibly accurate.
It is. AUC is a measure of how well the model distinguishes between groups, so 0.97 is very high. And even for long-term predictions, say 10 years out, its predictions remain relevant. The AUC values are still around 0.70 after a decade.
That simultaneous prediction across so many diseases with that kind of accuracy is, well, it's mind-boggling. And you're saying it's not just a black box. We can understand how it reaches these conclusions.
That's right. The researchers integrated explainable AI methods, so we get insights into its internal workings. And here's where it gets really interesting. The model independently reveals clusters of comorbidities. For example, conditions related to diabetes, like diabetes itself, retinal problems, neuropathies, they naturally group together inside the model. It wasn't explicitly programmed to find these links, it learned them organically from the data patterns.
It just figured out that connection.
Yeah, and similarly, diseases that often lead to death quickly, like a heart attack or septicemia, those cluster very tightly with the prediction of death in the model.
So it's learning these known medical associations on its own. What about the timing aspect?
It quantifies that, too, how past events influence future risks over time. The paper is a striking example. For one patient, a history of digestive tract diagnoses raised their pancreatic cancer risk 19-fold. 19. And then getting that pancreatic cancer diagnosis itself, that increased the risk of mortality almost 10,000-fold.
10,000, goodness.
It really highlights the severity. But it also shows differences in how long risks last. The influence of cancers on mortality might decay slowly over years, reflecting ongoing risks. But for something acute like septicemia, the influence on mortality risk is much shorter-lived. It goes back towards the average pretty quickly if the person recovers.
So it's not just predicting, it's actually mapping out this intricate, interconnected web of disease progression over time.
Precisely. It's giving us a new lens to understand how diseases unfold and influence each other.
Okay, but no model is perfect, right? What are the limitations or biases we need to be aware of?
Absolutely crucial point. And the researchers are commendably upfront about this. For instance, remember the validation on Danish data? While it worked well, there was a slight dip in accuracy. AUC dropped a bit, from 0.69 to 0.67. That suggests that while it generalized broadly, it does pick up on some specifics of the training cohort, the UK Biobank group.
So cohort-specific differences matter. What about the UK Biobank data itself? Any inherent issues there?
Yes, a few important ones. First, there's what they call a healthy volunteer bias. The participants, mostly aged 40-70, chose to join the study. They might be generally healthier than the average population. This also creates an immortality bias. No deaths are recorded before someone joins the study, which can affect how the model learns about diseases with high mortality, especially earlier in life.
Okay, that makes sense. Anything else?
Yeah, the source of the data matters too. The UK Biobank gathers information from different places: self-reports, GP records, hospital admissions, death registries, and the model, quite cleverly, learns patterns related to how the data was collected. For example, diseases usually diagnosed in a hospital, like septicemia, 93% hospital diagnosed trust. The model predicts those at 8 times higher rates if a person already has other hospital records in their history.
Ah, so that might not be a true biological link, but more an artifact of where the diagnosis typically happens.
Exactly. It's reflecting the data collection process. So connecting this to the bigger picture, these biases mean we need to be cautious. These AI models are powerful, definitely useful additions to our diagnostic tools, but they're certainly not replacements. And we always need to scrutinize the data they're trained on.
Understood. Caution is key. But thinking about the future, acknowledging those caveats, where could this technology take us? The potential seems huge.
It really does. First, there's the obvious potential for precision medicine. Delphi-type models could offer truly personalized health risk assessments, moving us way beyond these sort of one-size-fits-all guidelines.
Tailoring risk scores to the individual's actual history.
Right. And in terms of medical decision-making, imagine using this to identify people who'd benefit most from specific tests or early screening, not just based on age, but based on their unique predicted trajectory.
That could optimize resources and catch things earlier.
Potentially, yes. And then think broader, healthcare planning. If you aggregate predictions from Delphi-type models, you can inform policymakers, insurers, healthcare providers, project future disease burdens for specific demographic groups in specific regions, local, national levels. This could help adjust healthcare services proactively, not just reactively. Super valuable, especially with our aging populations.
Being proactive instead of reactive, that would be a major shift.
It would. And the great thing about the transformer architecture is its adaptability. You could potentially integrate even more data layers in the future. Think genomics, metabolomics, medical imaging, maybe data from wearables, pushing towards a truly multimodal view of health AI. It might even help make future healthcare chatbots, those LLMs, more factually and numerically accurate in their medical context. The horizons are pretty vast.
Limitless possibilities, it seems.
It really opens up fascinating avenues. And maybe to leave you with a thought to ponder. Consider this. If an AI can predict your future health journey with this kind of detail, even showing the intricate links between different conditions over time, what does preventative medicine truly look like in that era? An era of such precise, personalized foresight. How does that change our whole perception of health responsibility, of healthcare delivery, both for us as individuals and for the system as a whole?
That's a really profound question. What does prevention mean when you have that kind of predictive power? Definitely something to think about. Thank you for joining us today for this deep dive. It's been absolutely fascinating. And to you, our listeners, if this discussion resonated, please do consider hitting that subscribe button. Maybe share it with someone you think would find it interesting. Your support really does help the Sand Science Experience continue bringing you these in-depth looks at cutting-edge science. We appreciate you joining us on this Sand Science Experience.